This program is proudly brought to you by LateNightMedia.com for all your podcasting, comedy writing, and hot steaming pod needs. LateNightMedia.com.
Conscious wisdom, challenging our skeptical, critical thinking, digging deep into the dark and the light, and exploring the depths of our mind, body, and spirit. The podcast sprinkled with science, creativity, ageless wisdom, philosophy, and conspiracy. So be part of the discussion and get involved. Be part of the action of thinking and being the revolution. Be conscious with wisdom. Conscious wisdom, challenging our skeptical, critical thinking.
Yeah.
Okay, so the point that I'm trying to make is that there's 36% of the richest people in the US in that 1% happen to have Jewish descent. And they call all of us Goya or Gentiles, in other words, non-Jews. But, of course, back in the Greeks' day, we were actually called the hoi polloi. So the herd or the mass is the hoi polloi.
Or in Harry Potter terms, as I pulled out recently, the Muggles.
The Muggles. We're the Muggles. They're the 99% of the Muggles. So I think in a hierarchical term that society, cultures, the world, it doesn't matter who it is, whether there will always be someone at that top pyramid that have a bulk of the wealth, bulk of the power. And they're called plutocrats. You know, they always, that name is a Greek name.
Why is it Pluto? Because obviously Pluto is a planet.
Yeah.
And that hasn't represented. And obviously, it's not just by chance that they call these people plutocrats, because all of these words that have these sorts of meanings are represented throughout culture, and it means that. Like, Steve, what would you say Pluto is? Like, what does that planet in representation of Zodiac mean to you?
Bit outside the system, but I just wanted to make another point you made. People who have wealth have obviously learnt how to manage money really well.
Correct.
Okay. So I really encourage those types of people to help fix our governments and deal with these problems. I'm sure that if they were encouraged or dragged into the chair, they would. But they certainly wouldn't necessarily propose their own leadership strategy.
Sorry about that. Jesus,
That's all right.
This is very touchy.
Yeah.
Sorry, Steve, for cutting in on you there. I was going to say, when I researched some of the families, and the most common one, even in popular circles, is obviously the family called the Rothschilds. And when you follow that back to the early 1700s, and then you link it right back to today, and you see the dynasty and the control over banking through Europe through that 17th, 18th century. 5 sons. The dad is very much a banker, and he becomes what they call hereditary nobility. And hereditary nobility means they become barons and lords, and they get into that aristocratic plutocrat existence, which is the houses and the duchies of Europe, which were the power bases that existed. And in China, by the way, they have dynasties that had been there for thousands of years until the Mongols decided that they realized that the dynasties in China were setting the plainsmen, being Genghis Khan, and all the people on the plains against each other for thousands of years until Genghis went, hello, hang on, they're playing a strategy here called divide and conquer, so that they could take all the spoils. And until they turned their attention on it, they then basically pulled the walls down, fought for a number of years and many generations, and then became the very aristocrats and plutocrats as well.
Well, I think a lot of people, whoever uttered the words, I wish I had lots more money, aren't really indifferent from those that they may necessarily or may despise that have lots of money.
Correct.
Right?
Exactly.
And so if you're talking about change rather than how to go, if we go to change, we don't have to be as divisive. So the possibility here is a philosophical one. Nature will provide.
Yeah.
Well, if you look at the Zodiac,
right.
it's actually a method to show you how that's possible.
Right.
I think.
Right. It's true. And another point I make is, how do we make money less important? Okay.
That's right.
All right then.
Because it's not natural. It's not a natural part of the system.
Now, if you're really good with skill with money, then you have an obligation to improve the lives of others, and be a good governor and demonstrate good governance in the use of money. If you don't have enough money, you need to become a better governor as well. If you have very unfortunate circumstances, then you just simply turn and ask for help, but preferably someone will see you suffer and they'll help you. I mean, this is just a philosophical change that we need to move from wanting. I mean, we're all being educated into wanting stuff. Have our brain patterns modified by media to even ignore the types of discussions we're having here in terms of Hermetic wisdom and occult science. We've replaced it with ordinary sciences like astronomy rather than astrology.
Correct.
So we're moving, done that on purpose in order to be more sense-bound. So if we move more to the faculties of our mind, which we'll find represented in the Zodiac, and a clear path to understanding them, then we can move to a more of a feeling perspective. When we're operating and feeling, we know what's right to do. Very simple. To get what you want, then it comes very simple. If you're doing the right thing, reason will agree, and desire will be satisfied. Right now we tend to go the other way around. We say, I want this. How do I get it? It's reasonable. I have it. I want it now. Give it to me. I'll take it. If necessary, fantastic. I've got it. I have a lovely feeling. I've got lots of money in the bank. But it's not really right. Okay, so there would be a lot of. If I go back into the Zodiac and think about its nature, I can use that as a representation for how we should approach thinking about some really big problems and how we need to change. So I'd encourage people to study the symbols precisely. A good one to study is Scorpio. You'll find in there a lot around the creature itself, and you'll find yourself inside that sign. You'll find your greedy part. You'll find the darkness within.
Yeah. And the interesting thing, Scorpio is actually ruled by Pluto, and Pluto is about death. It's about power. It's about personal power.
And thus we have plutocrats.
Yeah, going back to that.
So this is why I like the terminologies of this kind of stuff. It's there for a reason.
Yeah. And Pluto also is, and Scorpio is about it's an emotional need. So they're driven by an emotional need, usually for more. And they're also dealing with not just themselves, they're always dealing with other people. So it's like, what can you give me to make me feel more powerful?
Right.
So they want to take it, not necessarily take it from others, but there's an emotional need for them to go out. Like if they're driven by an emotional need, like I can't get no satisfaction by the Rolling Stones, that could be Pluto, Scorpio driven. So they want more. They want more money. I haven't got enough. Let me get more. So,
it's kind of like has that sex vibe. It's all about sex.
Yeah. Listen, life is about sex, death, and money and power. That's what Scorpio, ruled by Pluto, is all about.
Wow.
And that's what it is. It's sex, death, money, and power.
Plutocrats. There you go.
Yeah,
and
so
you look into that.
Well done, group.
That's
we got it
done.
right.
We
Well
connected
done.
that. To rule the dominion is what a plutocrat means, and someone can research that themselves, but it's an old Greek term. Therefore, it's been around a long, long time. And I think the symbol of Jesus chasing the usury, he was quite outspoken about, people loaning money with high interest rates back then. And he was turning the tables over in the markets, I think, where there were these individuals lending money and being quite obscene about it. To be truthful, it's the obscenity that we have today in terms of credit cards. I mean, it's 20% on a credit card when 2% is the bank rate or whatever it is a big profit margin, and it's just wrong. Like it's morally questionable, and people should be able to question it because it's just.
Most people are going to tell us we don't have the right to tell them not to go and make another application for a Master Visa card.
Well, I think this is
okay.
But if you look into the age of Aquarius, we can see that it's all about idealism and about knowing.
Right.
Like the statement is, I know. We're moving into this.
Yeah, which is the gnosis.
From Pisces, which is all about submission.
Yeah.
And I believe in something.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the progression through the Zodiac is in our minds and our consciousness sort of form. It's going, well, I just submit to this. And I think, I believe that I need this kind of stuff in order for my life to be something. And our progression, like mentally, throughout the Zodiac states that, okay, well, the ideal is that I'm going to make this an ideal society because I know now that is wrong.
Well, knowing,
I know.
knowing.
It's about knowledge moving into Aquarius.
Yeah.
When you were talking about back in the other thing, you mentioned the word pagans, which I think links to the rural and the sort of the indigenous base of shamanism and the tribes that weren't connected with each other. Gnosis is the knowing. So, when we talk about the Gnostics, which is a very, it's never really been a religion, it's the knowing. And it has been squashed historically. Even most people confuse what the term Gnostics are, and I think the Gnostic knowing allows you to be not submissive. There's some interesting links for people to look at. Is a very good Gnostic whose life, she was a great philosopher in 400 AD, called Hypatia, Hypatia. Because you look at what happened there, it's a fundamental sort of moment where she was a teacher in the libraries of Alexandria, which were like, the very first academies. And she was mobbed by an enraged Christian mob who sort of tried to demolish and burn all the Gnostic knowledge, which links right back to ancient times, ageless wisdom. So the Gnostics are something to look into.
I always like to, when Jehovah's Witnesses come to my door to go, hey, have you guys read the Gnostic Gospels? And then I start explaining some of my knowledge about the Gnostic Gospels. They feel slightly awkward, and then they don't need to give me books.
No.
So that's always a good way. Use your knowledge to help yourself out.